Yui was originally a normal office worker in the company and was subjected to intense pressure every day. Even if it was called reincarnation, the culprit was always a truck. He was logged back into the other world. Has the theme of magic and monsters, and the profession of an animal tamer is considered the most despised profession of all. Fortunately, he made friends with smart Slims and was willing to learn, so he quickly advanced with many diverse skills and received the title of sage. However, he was not foolish enough to brag to the world and only hid his profession as an adventurer. On the way to complete a few simple quests, he encountered a thanks to the help of Slim's friends. He tamed the monster, so he easily dodged the attack of launching a fireball and burned it after returning to the Adventurers Guild and returning a number of herbs. The medicine was so powerful that it surprised the receptionist and the other adventurers who had underestimated him. Even the president saw that Yui was not an ordinary beast tamer, but soon the vice president immediately ran in to report that he had seen signal smoke in the forest. Yu contacted Slim and the others and learned that an army of monsters numbering perhaps thousands were coming from all over towards the town. The president heard that, very scared, and asked everyone to leave the town. But the other adventurers volunteered to stay behind to protect the people, even though they knew the chance of winning was almost zero. But Yuji stepped up to volunteer and said he would after taking care of this. I pulled out a piece of cactus from Slim's mouth. Having said that, everyone, don't even think about putting nonsense in Slim's mouth and say you can use this bone to recreate the dragon's fire and destroy all the monsters. Everyone thought this was impossible. Only one person with hair that looked like a pineapple stood up and said he had seen it. Yuji Slim can breathe fire and advise everyone to trust Yug. After distributing all the medicine to the people, immediately take a fighting position to protect the city gate to prevent monsters from entering. Yuji ordered his wolf to take Slim and his group to give him more energy drinks so that Fi could run like flying from above to observe the battle. At this time, the adventurers used homemade bombs and others held bows and swords to attack. Go up and wipe out all the monsters. Yu put the bone back in Slim's mouth because it's mainly used for playing. Just hold on. Wait for 15 minutes so I can turn on a dozen fantasy cards. Search to see which skill to use. Said that he used amazing data processing spells while my computer only needed 2 tabs on Chrome to freeze. While Yog was sitting and combining one magic after another, he received news from his teammate in the dry group. He discovered a stranger with shady movements. He used his sensory exchange skills with Slim, using him as a security camera. Go spy on Tham and see what the stranger is doing. Something with the magic lantern. Thatch, with the help of the jungle group and the Slim children, jumped into a tree. He used the skill to relay magic through the children. Using a magic net, he controlled the stranger and then he used it, turning it into a magic stone. He ordered Slim's group to drag him back for questioning, but he suddenly shouted the slogan of the terrorist organization he worked for and then drank poison and committed suicide. He brought Slim's group to town so they could split up into teams to support the adventurers. He unleashed a fire magic attack that caused the demons to explode. Thanks to that, the adventurers were able to advance. The receptionist girl in the guild observed Yu from afar when she saw him perform the spell. Gasping for breath, he told her to call the adventurers. Because he was about to do something important, he ordered the Slims to gather and form an array around the town, using magic to deploy a protective barrier, followed by the Hellfire skill, destroying most of the monsters and everything around them, like a party announcing the gender of a fetus that went wrong, right? However, that is not enough to destroy all the monsters. IUI is currently quite weak because he is forced to use his HP to compensate for the missing MP to perform that attack again to save said town, causing him to deploy a protective barrier and use a Hellfire attack to kill them all the monsters and collapsed from exhaustion. A few days later, he recovered and saw the receptionist come in to give him food. He also heard people cheering outside. At this time, he realized that he was already the town's hero. The receptionist girl asked him to rest more and go out, but when night came, she was about to take him to the room to give him more blankets, only to discover that he had left. The reason was because of him. Not wanting to attract attention, the receptionist immediately reported it to the president. He said that the hero had left this town without bringing money or fame, but he had also investigated his identity. The stranger in the forest with the magic stone and realized that he was a member of the Trade and Moon Guild that covered the entire continent. But unexpectedly, Yuji sent back a Slim to facilitate monitoring and listening. Okay, now Yuji had arrived at the next town, but it was strange for him to follow them all at once without being noticed. They were all hungry, so he treated them to a meal of meat. It's filling enough to make anyone vegetarian at heart cried. Then he went to meet the Adventurer Guild in this town, but they usually didn't recruit Beastmasters, and the only reason Yui got in was because they were in need of someone with high scouting ability when he looked at the job list. When a group of adventurers came to ask him to join their team because they needed a follower, there was a spear user named Rodis, an archer named Tina, and a spear user named Lisa Rodas who didn't like him. But when the girls reminded him that he himself was no good because every time the members of his party called to fight, they were all angry. They wanted Yuji to join their team, so they axe Rodas or agree or be kicked out of the team, and so Yuji officially joins their team, and this time his mission is to locate the Earth Dragon spell in the forest next to him using his wolf and Slim's group. To inform him about the location of nearby monsters, making his teammates very surprised because of his ability to spy on the first group of monsters. Rodas rushed in alone and weighed them all without leaving a single life, and said that maybe he needs to reconsider his prejudice towards Yugen the evening. They confided to each other about their adventures. Rodas, because he was a veteran, seemed to know a lot. He even offered to stay up all night to let Yuji sleep. He slept and dreamed about the first time. When I first came to this world, I worked so much that I logged out and still thought that the system window was the company's office screen, but then I soon realized that I had become an animal trainer. The monk and he tamed the first Slim just by touching it. Slim led him to a cabin in the woods filled with books, and when he took out a book he discovered that it was the formula. This world's secret nuclear bomb maker, not to mention he also learned that he could learn magic as soon as he read it once. The Slim children also volunteered to be specially reading books. All the skills and knowledge they learned were passed on to Yug. He became a sage without having to read anything, and that was the beginning of the journey. His program, and in just a week since then he has saved an entire town. After waking up, he received information from the Wolf Pride telling him that Rodas, who was guarding, had run off somewhere, and the girls were following him because they were suspicious of him from the beginning and now realized that he was about to betray them. He even noticed and attacked a Slim girl, but luckily he had the stealth skill, so he was able to escape. Rodas started running away as soon as the two girls were close to him. He skillfully dodged all kinds of traps and went into a tent to report the situation to his big brother, a thirsty thief and slave trader. Rodas' voice told him that his group had 2 girls to sell and they would definitely get a good price. There was also a beast Tamer who was left alone at the camp, and he would probably sleep soon. Yuji watched from afar as well. Listened to everything and realized that the rumors were true, but then it got old. He said something about the Kangwei Association and that there was a prediction that disaster would strike when the moon turned blue. He was also ready to wring the neck of a guy who dared to laugh at Mr. Yu's words. He couldn't stand to listen at this time, and decided to destroy them with a weak magic. He ordered Slim's group to surround the bandits' tent and use freezing magic, and it was much stronger than Yu thought. The tent suddenly turned into a cupboard. The crowd and the robbers turned into demons. The girls saw it and were shocked. Yuji didn't want them to know the truth, so he lied that it was Slim's doing. Slim pulled out the stone statue head of the same guy. The girls immediately admitted it. Turns out he is a notorious thief who is wanted with an incredibly high bounty written on his head. They are very impressed and say he should have told them so they could rely on him, but Yui remembers that he had suffered a lot in his previous life because of that, so he didn't want to just have to take on someone else's responsibilities and waste his entire life. He thought that the reliability of these girls was just enough to can be disclosed to others about his abilities. While they were talking about finding another place to set up camp, Yuji threw a Slim into the air, creating a sonic boom, and used it as a drone to help find. Having found an ideal place for these Django pets to set up a tent, light a fire and prepare food according to Yug's orders, the girls were speechless but then quickly went to sleep. Yu was still busy thinking about the predictions of the boss of that whole moon church. The group continued searching the next day, but they didn't find any clues about the Earth Dragon. The girls encouraged Yu, saying that he and Slim's group, you'll see it soon. But you think they think too highly of you. Then you suddenly remember the time when you participated in the competition to kill you. At the Adventurers Guild, the crystal ball used to measure magic power had just been broken. When he touched one, it shattered to pieces. Through the test to see how strong the firepower was, a magic attack punctured the rock, causing the examiner and other contestants to just freeze because he didn't want to be noticed, so he used it. Use limited skills to reduce magic power and use a type of magic weakly relays magic through the pet Slim to defeat nearby monsters. Although not lethal, it is still enough to destroy monsters. Suddenly the sky turns purple and black and a blue moon appears at night. Hey, the Slims felt something strange, and they also saw thunder, lightning, storms, clouds. A bright light began to fall and immediately destroyed the entire forest like a nuclear bomb in the sky. The darkness just now suddenly disappeared, but that was only the beginning. The real danger was the giant green dragon that caused it just by to evacuate and informed the girls that there was a dragon that was much stronger and bigger than the Earth Dragon and that it was near them. Tina leads a group and leads them to a nearby safe zone called Delight Canyon, where strong winds can help keep the monsters from entering. Yuji isn't sure if this place will be safe or not. Ordering the Wolf Pride and the pets to go ahead and check the ravine, they discovered there were monsters inside and defeated them with the ability to relay their weak magic to Slim's group. But then there was an extremely strong gust of wind. The wind blew so strongly that they were almost blown away. Finally, they found the place where the wind came from and hid behind the rocks. Before they could do anything, his pets were followed by a red bear with chicken-colored hair. While the wolf was afraid and cried, Slim's group calmly waved the bear back to his grandparents and the group escaped safely from the ravine just as they were about to inform Y that the ground under his feet cracked and the dragon cracked. The land suddenly appeared in front of him. The little girls were worried about hiding, and Yuji decided to live and die with the dragon he initially pointed out. Used a few basic magic spells but none of them were enough to lift a piece of its scales. The dragon counterattacked and threw rocks at the girls. Yuji immediately used bullets to destroy those rocks and save them in the round. The two are about to start. Yuji realizes something. This dragon knows how to mimic Pokemon's fighting style. It's roll up and roll straight towards him, but Yuji dodges and then orders everyone to fire bullets at the dragon, but it still continues. Didn't mean anything except being a little careless. When the dragon attacked Yuji again, luckily a big wind appeared and blew it aside. Yuji immediately took the opportunity to take advantage of his karma skills. The extremely destructive fire burned the dragon thoroughly until the little bastards stuck their heads out. The dragon was left with only a skeleton, causing the two girls to look at him admiringly, and Tina immediately asked him how he did it. Having done that, she then turned on inference mode claiming that he had used the burning ores under the rocks to destroy the earth dragon. They returned to the guild and reported that they had found and defeated the dragon. The receptionist was initially skeptical about Yuji's words and his group until Baby Slim spit out a dragon skull from his mouth. The receptionist then asked about Rotus, who was also in Baby Slim's stomach, and the other banana ice cream coffee guys about the reward for beating him. Defeating the dragon and capturing the bandits made Tina and Lisa one step closer to becoming millionaires, but their sudden wealth made the town's one-eyed president pay attention and want to become millionaires. Private talk with Yug, the president, temporarily called Admiral One-Eyed Dragon, held a meeting including the most important and powerful individuals in the region to discuss how to defeat the blue dragon. Yuji, who was already too tired with meetings like this, I made a joke that in meetings you can send emails. But I realized that not everyone can understand that joke. This is a joke that only office people will understand unless if you've been unemployed for too long. I'll give you my condolences when asked to describe the appearance of the green dragon because he was the one who saw it at the closest range. He used his memory and skills to draw the dragon, causing everyone present to stun the priest sitting across from Yug. He pulled out a Bible that contained images and stories about a similar dragon. He said that the dragon appeared when darkness covered its development and wiped out an entire country in just a few seconds. Within 3 days before being defeated by a divine messenger, the admiral said that it was very difficult for them to find such a warrior in the current era, but when thinking back to a period of 30 years ago about the eclipse phenomenon at the time of the lower mind, and right at that time the priests in the capital's cathedral conducted a soul summoning ritual to summon a warrior 30 years in the future to repel the disaster. The summoning date was a week ago because Yu decided to keep his origin a secret, so the priests thought the ritual failed and the dragon was the result when the sky became dark that the ex-dragon had grown larger than the one-eyed dragon admiral, declaring that he could no longer falter and planned to attack the dragon at dawn with everything they had at home. Tina and Leah announced to Yuji that they would join the dragon hunt to get a big reward because they thought that as long as they stick to Yuji, they wouldn't have to worry about anything after they left a priest from the meeting. Named Steer approached Yui and took him to a church because he wanted to give him a hear. The priests all understand its power. Or you can call it its true value. Steer believes that Yuji can effectively use its power and gives it to him. Yuji takes the knife and knows that there is the name as the Gam Caddis knife. It has extremely high durability and can also focus magic power on one point. Steer also said that he gave this knife to him because it was God's will. When night fell, Yuji contemplated the battle. The war is coming and I don't know how many people will have to fall. The sky turns red again. The Slim Lap crowd informs him that the dragon is now absorbing magic, and as he grows older he begins to remember the day of the exam. As everyone looked at and evaluated his powerful magic, he thought that if he tried, he might be able to defeat the dragon. Then he immediately set out with the wolf Kyu Han and his soldiers. His Slim soldiers went to meet the dragon. He used only one Slim standing on the front line. Using fire magic would definitely not be effective at this range, so in a single attack, he chose to use extremely destructive fire karma. And transferred it to the first Slim in Tien Tuyet, followed by a giant fireball that exploded the dragon, but it did nothing. Even though its weakness was fire and magic, this made the dragon become even more angry and retaliated with destructive energy beams, but luckily Yuji was able to deploy a barrier as the dragon continued to absorb magic power and grew larger. Slim asked Yui if there was any other plan. Now he can only rely on the Gam knife. Katus decided to approach the dragon to deal a fatal blow and jump down the cliff. The dragon discovered and attacked the one who continued to attack. The one who persevered used the barrier as a shield. The shield couldn't stand it anymore, it broke into pieces and landed safely on the ground. Without hesitation, he rushed at the dragon. He was eagerly waiting for the opportunity to strike a big blow, but Yuji threw a slim child at it and used magic to create a barrier to block the attack. Of it, he was now close enough to just below the dragon. He successfully used the strengthening jump magic to approach the dragon. At this time, it was about to send out another ray of energy to attack him, but Yuji used fire. In an attempt to stop him, he used a knife to stab it straight into its eye. Immediately, the Hellfire skill was cast, creating an explosion concentrated at one point. This demon's brain seemed to have finished its goal. Then suddenly Yuji was hit by the dragon's tail and hit the cliff. The dragon was seriously injured and went crazy. Even though he was still safe, Yui's HP and MP were low. Many dragons decided to attack and corner him. The more he used the shield, the more it would break. He intended to use a powerful magical strike to freeze the dragon, but received a notification that he could only use it within the next 45 seconds, shocking the dragon with a huge thunder attack. Then he climbed on his wolf and jumped at the dragon, stabbing it in the neck, and then used the Hellfire skill. Once again this attack was strong enough that Yuji knocked the blue dragon's head off and made it disappear, creating sparkling fireworks in the sky, and the moon returned to normal. However, when he returned home, Yuji did not realize it. That the remnants from the battle with the dragon are causing strange effects on the surrounding area. The next morning, the one-eyed dragon admiral woke up Yuji because he had just heard from Stay that someone had defeated the blue dragon yesterday. Looking at it, he knew who did it, so he immediately blamed Yuji. If he was going to fight the dragon, he should have asked for more aid. At noon, he had dinner with Tina and they kept talking about the dragon being defeated. Feeling sorry that they don't have a chance to fight to earn more bonuses, Yuji tells them that he will be going to another town soon and he wants them to suggest something to help him. LZA suggests he go to a nearby town there with good food, and even though he's excited, he's still wanting to make sure that no dragons would appear there. Yuji left for the next town and left a few slims for the girls in case of emergency. However, on the way he received a text message from the spirit. Drez asked him to come see something. He went there and Drez just wanted to show him the mushrooms growing from the place where he fought the dragon. She said that these mushrooms would help him discover the truth about the world if you smoke them. D says that she can create sages, remedies and high-level magic recovery potions with them, and Yuji orders his slim to pick all the mushrooms in that area. She started making a blue potion with them because she learned the recipe from Breaking Bad, but there was still one ingredient which was pure water, so she could complete it. Yuji so taught her how to make distilled water and started the first talks about the time they first met when she was in a dying state, and he saved her by transferring magic power to the Drez, saying that someone left a magic stone here and it was taken. All her strength and the vitality of the whole forest. Yuji Bead broke the curse from that stone and then many monsters appeared. He used his packed shield to hit him and burned him with hellfire. He was so grateful that she helped him by giving him rare medicinal flowers, which he brought to the guild in the first town, and from then on she became his ally. Yuji asked her again, why is the color of the medicine the same as the color of the magic stone? Doctor replied that it was due to the grace of when the dragon dies, its magical power will grow into these mushrooms. Although it is a neutral power, if it falls into the wrong hands, it can bring a lot of harm to the distillation process. The water was finished and Dry finally finished the medicine. She was happy and hugged Yuji before giving him the medicine as promised, and then returned home to continue moving to the next scene, but the path was covered by a layer dense fog. The wolf could still sense the scent of humans. It followed the scent and reached a small village hidden in the forest with many people looking at him and his group suspiciously. The village chief picked him up and asked, I am staying here tonight because it's dangerous to go through the woods at late hours, but because Yui refused, that person asked him to at least join them for dinner. The village chief gave him half the cake and a little wine, but Yui was not hungry. Then the village chief asked him why he came here. Yu replied that he was on his way to the next town. But unfortunately he got lost in the fog and everyone stood outside staring at him, causing the village chief to explain that the people here were not used to seeing outsiders. Yuji left after when he learned that the village was called Matthias, and he felt there was something very strange was about to reach his destination, but as soon as it became clear he discovered that the whole town was covered with white snow, not to mention there was still another strange thing waiting for him ahead. He went deeper into the town when the time came. The weather suddenly changed from summer to freezing to the point where he couldn't stand it anymore. Yuji searched to see if there were any skills that could help and discovered that he could use a barrier as an insulating shield to keep warm when he arrived. When I arrived at the IUJ gate, I learned from the security guard that the weather had changed so suddenly 10 days ago. Some people even died because of it. The security guard also told me where there was good food, but this place, it's as empty as the messages in my messenger. Yui found the best restaurant in town, but they've run out of wood to keep warm and have no hope of reopening anytime soon. They can't even harvest wood because it would create a lot of smoke and little heat. He decided to take care of this himself by going into the nearby forest. He didn't know which trees were used for cooking, so he summoned the god and cut down all the trees. Within its scope variable they turned into wood to burn. He realized that he could control Slim to absorb moisture from the tree and the wood would soon be ready to use. He took the wood to the chef who said that the wood was too dry and would cause too much heat to cook. Yui added a little moisture to the wood and turned it into perfect burning wood. The chef was overwhelmed by the quality of the wood and before starting work he explained about it and said that he would prepare a special dish. Especially here, the chef told Yui that he could get more wood if he wanted. This pile of wood could take the whole life of a chef and he wouldn't be able to finish it all. Slim absorbs moisture into the wood to make it perfect and then the chef immediately prepared the best steak Yuji had ever eaten after he was satisfied. He heard it wasn't even the restaurant's best dish, but because the town didn't have enough wood to burn, the chef decided to make a quick dish. Yuji wanted to try the best dish so he went to the guild place where all the tasks involved collecting firewood. The receptionist took him to the east gate to meet the person responsible for collecting firewood. WCAWG is a person who has spent his whole life to cut down every tree in the forest because he doesn't like having to listen to a bunch of young men spouting environmental protection philosophy all day long, and he explains why they can't provide enough wood for everyone. Town. Even if there were villages nearby to help. Yuji asked him if the village would help them, but WKA replied that the place had been abandoned for a long time. That sounded strange, but Yuji decided for now low focused on cutting wood, and when the foreman chopped dozens of trees at the same time, GKA and all the other woodcutters were surprised and he asked about the quantity standard set by the Adventurers Guild. How many? WKA only May nodded when he saw Yuji complete the job in just a few seconds. He then asked Slim and the others to help make the wood warehouse and prepare it for the next pile of wood. He returned to the Adventurers Guild. The receptionist was having a hard time with his skills. Yuji also sat and listened. She told about a legendary beast Tamer who was once able to carry the sky on his shoulders thanks to his slim group. If he had the chance, he would return to ask Steer about this person, but now because you have to deposit all the wood you harvest after clearing it, destroying the entire nearby forest, which was only enough for the town to hold out for 3 days. Yuji soon destroyed the entire nearby forest in the blink of an eye, making Waka happy and also a little jealous. The next day, Yuji returned home. Restaurant to enjoy their famous stew. A delicious feeling spread in his mouth. It was worth the money he worked so hard for yesterday, but the chef said that this is still not the best dish of the restaurant. His house because their herb supply was being eaten by monsters. Yuji just asked what kind of monster it was before going to the herb farm and dividing his slim into 2 teams to protect the field and finds the monster destroying the field to be a giant wild boar that looks like a triceratops. Yuji turns his fireball magic on Slim and roasts the pig even harder than you're grilling your friends. Then they continue to hunt down every monster in the area, but then the Slims find a strange stone, even dry, has no information about it. Yuji tap on it to understand more and it started absorbing his power, so he concluded that it must be the Dragon Ball. Drez said it could also be because it absorbed too much magic power from the area and made the town so cold. Furthermore, she realized that it was made by humans because it emitted human magic. Yuji decided to clean the stone with his Disbin magic and it turned into a normal stone, and then he came out. Ordered the other Slims to find if there were any more magic stones like this one and found out that they were located all over this area. Using the Yuji map, he discovered that they were placed in the shape of a complete circle. Good. Yuji followed his intuition and went into the center of the circle where everything still looked normal. He felt that something was being hidden here, so he told Slim to retreat and asked Doctor to close his eyes for her. She wouldn't like to see him destroy a forest, but she said that destroying a small part of the forest is better than letting strange magic destroy the entire ecosystem. With that word, Yuji destroyed the entire area with hellfire, and at the heart of the hole that exploded from his attack had a secret entrance. He decided to go in and destroy the source of this cold because he didn't want to miss the chance to enjoy the delicious food in town. He kicked the door. I saw a deep hole that led to an underground dungeon. When the ice dragon was defeated, a large snowstorm began to form around the dungeon. He asked the wolf and Dry to return while Slim's group went scouting around, and then they found a high-tech laboratory near it. He wondered if this kind of technology was really from this world or not, but then Slim's group discovered that there was also something more interesting than steamed red magic stones. The magical energy receptors turned out to be created from here, and while they were busy doing research, suddenly a few people came in and said that this product had failed and went to find their senior named Javis to present the case. You decided to find something, Dr. Javis. His plan was originally to sneak around with Tham, but it quickly failed because the Slim group kept jumping around, forcing him to use his skills. Let them hide inside to find more clues. He returned to the forest when 2 Slim children came to report that they had found the 2 workers from earlier entering a room, and Slim tried to get through the tiny pink hole in the door. In order to get in, I encountered an iron door, which requires 2 people to pull 2 levers at the same time to open it. Yuji ordered Slim and the others to open the door to find more clues. Then they came to a place where they couldn't see anything but a ladder, then they climbed up together. Yuji, standing from above, watched and realized that this cellar was connected to the massage village in front of Slim's group. Sneaking through the window, he saw the two guys from before who were reporting the situation to Javier turned out to be men pretending to disguise themselves as the village chief and be a member of the Mercy Church. They used this abandoned village as a base to create magic stones, but because the explosion from the previous attack damaged their equipment, so they can no longer make magic stones. Javier was afraid and immediately mobilized troops to take back the cursed magic stones from the forest. He also ordered all the witnesses to be killed because they no longer needed them. He thinks things are getting out of control, and before the cultists can take action, Yuji orders Slim's group to find a hiding place and surround the village. Investigated the village to see if there was anyone outside the guild, but there was none. Slim and the others reported to take all the books and documents there and bring them back here, and so Slim's group threw all the books into the mud without leaving any rights. The soldiers sent to collect the cursed thatch ghosts unfortunately encountered the Slim children and was trapped in the magic net, but more surprisingly they committed suicide rather than being captured. Yuji didn't care and ordered Slim's group to continue following the plan, and then they informed him that they found the door was closed very tightly and there was no lever. However, IUI quickly discovered that underneath the 5 candles were electronic circuits and asked the Slims to stand in front of the candles and blow. Extinguishing all the candles at the same time, the door immediately opened and inside was full of treasure. There was also a human skeleton that was probably a guard. But never mind that when a member of the cult returned to the room, she was shocked by the gas. The secret door was open, and the treasure as well as their research materials were gone. They quickly reported to Javier and realized that they had also lost contact with the police. At this time, they were sure that there are very powerful people behind this, but one of them wonders why he hasn't killed them yet. Javier speculates that perhaps it's because the attacker knows about the cleansing fire that will activate if they are all killed. Ability to burn down the entire area. Yuji was grateful for this newly updated knowledge, as he was also planning on setting them all on fire, but seemed to know that wouldn't make any difference. Javi decided to defeat the attacker at all costs, and on his orders all the cult members committed suicide to trigger the fire. Clean up a nuclear reactor that looks like they stole it from Rick and Morty's reactor. The nuclear reaction collapsed and shocked the entire village. Yuji told his frightened Slims to gather and placed them in a protective sphere before launching them into the sky. He then placed 3 trees. Various barriers around the village. However, as soon as his Slim landed safely, the land inside the barrier separated and a green fire erupted. It was so powerful that the barriers could not stand it. Okay, and Yuji started thinking of plan B. Since there was no barrier strong enough in the skill list, he decided to create one himself. He combined curse removal magic and ice magic to create a magic. The new jutsu is called Perfect Isolation Array, and surrounding the purification flame in one fell swoop can stop its effect. However, it consumes a lot of mana, and Yuji's MP is gradually decreasing as the purification flame pushes. On the contrary, use HP isolation array is decreasing to hide his negative MP. He only hopes to be able to win in the end. Finally, the purifying fire bursts out from the top of the barrier and vanishes in just a second, and Yuji, luckily he still had some HP left. Even when he finished dealing with the scared wolf, pride crawled out of its hiding place, and Yui told him that lazy people should get their food free. When he returned to town, everyone was worried, because they saw him disappear after hunting wild boar. They mentioned that he missed 2 huge explosions that looked like falling meteors. However, thanks to that, the snow finally started to melt and soon the weather in the town returned. Normal state. The town's residents decide to hold a literal town warming party, and Yuji becomes the guest of honor for providing them with the necessary firewood, and also because he defeated the monster. The wild boar chef had prepared the most delicious stew from the best ingredients. When Yu took a bite, he was once again enlightened and fell down with a satisfied smile on his face. He woke up with his mouth still thinking aftertaste of yesterday's documents he had stolen from Messi. However, as soon as he opened the first scroll, all the information on it disappeared due to some kind of magic that could help prevent copyright theft. All the documents were like that until there was only one roll left containing the names of the people the Thuong Wei group was pursuing. He was extremely shocked to see that in the last row was his name. A gang of assassins on the path to find him includes a woman wearing armor with an extremely daring style and a masked man who seems to be very impatient to find this final target. The girl tells her accomplices that nothing will happen unless she confirms that he is a threat, and once she does that she will definitely spend her time torturing him to death while talking to the masked man using magic eyes, and found Yuji walking in the forest with Zom's magic eye still intact on the iPhone camera. Yuji left the town of Gamet to escape from the assassins sent by the Thuong Wei Guild on the advice of the guild's receptionist. He went to a floating town famous for their monster armor. The slim kids accompanying him were also excited about the power boost they would receive in the new town. However, one of Slim's group warned Yuji that they were being watched. Yuji, also aware of this, using a hidden slim as a snake spy, spies on the masked assassins, discovering that their target Yuji is sleeping peacefully in the forest while the red-haired woman wants to approach carefully. The partner enthusiastically wanted to kill Yuji immediately. After observing Yuji for a while, they concluded that he was just an ordinary beast tamer. The woman insisted on observing him for a whole day before coming to a conclusion. Yuji hears their conversation and confirms that they are indeed assassins sent by the Kangwei Guild. He wants to deal with them immediately. But he knows that if they escape, a bounty will be issued. Bigger will be placed on his head. So he decided to follow the plan and go to the next town. At the new town Yuji, to the shop of a famous blacksmith. The assassins are still following him when he checks the price of various items. Feeling depressed, Yuji left the store after being chased away. As he walked, he accidentally bumped into someone and apologized enthusiastically. Then he pretended to be too poor to have enough money to make purchases at a fruit stand. The assassins are disappointed to discover that their target is even more useless than useless. While the masked man believes that Yuji is useless, the red-haired woman still needs more persuasion to prove himself. Yuji takes on a mission to hunt down some low-level monsters. Assassins watch as Yuji uses his proud wolf to fight 3 cows that are larger than his original wolf. Fearful, he instinctively defeated the first cow. After the slim children cheered him on, the pride wolf realized it was still as strong as before. Yuji remembered how aggressive the wolf was when they first met, but was captured and tamed by England using a magic net. Now the wolf realized his strength. He easily defeated the remaining 2 monsters. This sudden presence of power reflected his plan. So he used healing magic on the monsters, and making them stand up, they rushed to attack the wolf again, but the wolf cried Han defeated them again. Yuji repeated this process until the other likes changed their minds. However, the wolf cried Han was determined, destroyed them, so he had no choice but to strengthen the cows. The cows chased the wolf, and while they were strong, Yuji wanted to give strength to the proud wolf. However, the proud wolf pride showed off his pride and insisted on finishing the fight by defeating the bulls alone. And now the other guys have concluded that neither Yuji nor his monsters still had some energy left and rushed to attack Yuji. In a moment of surprise, Yuji summoned a sword and defeated the cow, revealing himself. The other monsters were confused by the display of skill, his sudden abilities, but after a few tense minutes they concluded that Yuji was just a common beast tamer. They decided to go back and report the results of the investigation to their superiors. Yuji was relieved Slim was following them. He eavesdropped on the other thugs discussing their next target, a priest named Sia, as they reported to their leader. Yu listened and learned that the Kangwei were hunting Chase Priest Stay. Their leader asks the assassins to investigate their next target before killing him. Yuri believes that the other thugs are too dangerous to leave alive, so he orders La to kill Slim. Used ice magic to freeze them, but they were slow to react. But then he wondered why the Moon Guild was chasing Priest Stay, and how did their leader know about him. The next day he went to the shirt store again. However, Yuji announced that this time he had brought money and wanted to make armor for his Slims. The worker mentioned that his boss was a great blacksmith and won't do anything to make Lily Gio's Slims angry, and asserts that he is the one who decides. In the store he greets Yug and checks the Slims for a minute before scolding the coworker who almost kicked him out. Away such powerful customers. Yuji, impressed by Gio's ability to judge, explains that he currently does not have any armor for such powerful monsters and will have to forge them from scratch. However, the main obstacle is the lack of materials to forge strong armor for the Slims and the proud wolf, causing confusion to reveal the material, a purple-like thing called the Little Donkey Dragon Ball, which is the best material available on the market and can be obtained by defeating a smaller fire dragon. Yuji realizes that even with such powerful materials it may not be enough to restrain the power of the lake, causing Slim. If Yuji can defeat the fire dragon's rare small green gem, whose gem may be strong enough to do that. Yuji inquires about the presence of normal fire dragons and learns that while there are normal dragons, no one has defeated them in a century, advises Yuji to focus on the smaller dragons. Yu decides to go to the Adventurers Guild and accept all the quests related to fire dragons. The receptionist is extremely surprised, but Yuji confidently asserts that he will defeat them with water magic. Receptionist informs that magic has no effect on smaller fire dragons due to their gem, but they are weak against water. Yuji reveals that water magic is his specialty. On the way to the volcano he has to cross a river full of man-eating piranhas, so he takes on the task of hunting them down. Yuji meets a red Slim that has adapted to fire and tames it. The Slim informs him that the volcano is today safe to investigate about piranhas in the river. Yuji creates a new magic named Slim Network and lets the Slims float in the river. They discover a deep hole on the river bottom, but when discovering a giant piranha chasing them, Yuji pulled it out with Slim's webbing and freezing it with ice magic, but it escapes and attacks. Yuji dodges the attack and shoots a fireball through his Slim, defeating the piranha. Yuji and his team continue their journey to the top. The volcano now has many fire Slims under his command. When they reached the top of the volcano, they didn't realize that there were dragons standing in front of them until Yui reminded them. Then they started to panic even when Yui ordered them to work. but they still trembled in fear because their mother often told them how scary the fire dragon was. No choice but to deal with it himself. He wanted to test if water was effective on them. He used a light water cannon on the first small dragon he found and it died. With just that one blow its body emitted a lot of steam as it decomposed and the gem fell out and Yuji took it as his reward. Then Slim surrounded the dead dragon and they suddenly weren't afraid of women anymore and determined to fight the dragons they rushed forward and Yuji shared water-breaking magic with them to destroy all the dragons while Yuji thought that fire dragons were too weak to resist water. Slim and the others informed announcing that they had found a blue dragon that was larger than the normal small dragons and looked much stronger. Yuji ordered them to surround it and then used the skill to spray water through them. Took a nice shower but that wasn't enough to defeat it and it started moving towards the crowd. Slim Yuji thought that water alone wasn't enough so he used ice magic to freeze the blue dragon but the dragon still destroy that layer of ice. I ordered it all my Slims gathered together and used freezing magic with 10 times more power thinking that this would definitely catch the dragon but the dragon still broke the ice and then collapsed. Yuji was won the battle. A gem fell from the dragon corpse. He thought he would make armor now and then he decided to gather the remaining fire dragons there and spend the whole day to destroy them. He returned and killed over 200 little donkey dragons at night and the receptionist couldn't believe it but she was even more surprised that the piranhas were at the bottom of the river instead of on the water and she sent an emergency investigation team level to find out the cause of his strange behavior. Then Yuji came to Ween again and gave him not one but 2 blue lure gems along with 200 regular fire dragon lure gems. The black blacksmith was shocked by the quality of the gems and started working to create a good armor for the world's strongest beast Tamer. Within a few days he created a necklace infused with blue gems for the wolf. Proud and half of Slim's crowd said it was a good job he ever did and asked Yu to try it. The proud wolf ran like the wind and felt so light and the Slims were also a lot faster. Yuji wanted to test how the new suit works with the Ma enhancement jutsu increases the flexibility, stamina and defense of his pets and they become 10 times faster than before. He is satisfied with this experiment but is confused and wants him to try his attacks. Me Too. Yuji used the frost spell in low range through Slim instead of medium range. He created a huge impact and the 2 blacksmiths were shocked but that attack did a lot of damage to the armor and caused tell Yuji that it would break if he used magic stronger than this. Benny suggested that this was the best he could do with the material he brought and if he could bring him a fire dragon ball. Normally he can do miracles with it but surprisingly no one can defeat a regular fire dragon because they live in the lava of volcanoes and only occasionally show their heads above the water. Yuji is in the room as he thought about what Ji had said and wondered what will happen to the volcano. The fire dragon appeared from the lava lake but then his Slim guys informed that the little dragons were going crazy and he realized that this is the same thing that happened in First Town. He immediately sent a wolf howling pride and some Slims to check if there was anyone suspicious at the volcano because he didn't feel okay with this and they quickly discovered there were 2. The man was climbing the mountain when suddenly a loud explosion the volcano had erupted into a giant fire dragon resembling Godzilla standing on top of the mountain whose roar echoed throughout the world and Yui immediately contacted her pets to ask if are they okay. Luckily, they are still healthy. Seeing the giant dragon from so close made the wolf panic while Slim and the others thought it would be very strong. Yuji told them to continue watching and notify him if anything happens. Then he saw 2 people walking towards the fire dragon with barrels on their backs. Yuji sent one of his Slims along with them and heard them talking about aiming at the fire dragon. They were confident that it only takes a few barrels of water to defeat the dragon because some people in Aaron told them that the task is easy. Yuji wonders if it's another city. He doesn't want them to do it. The situation got worse and used magic Miss Ross Slim to attack those 2 people but these 2 people were very skillful and dodged the magic. He realized that they were experts. They suspected that there was a using magic must be nearby but the Slims hid very well. They couldn't find anything. Yuji said this time he would try from behind and maybe tell his girlfriend if she still exists in this reality. He tested the magic net again but both of them are waiting for this. One of them jumps behind the Slim group and attacks it with the dagger. Yuji knows these guys are smart so he has planned all the patch to one. The other Slim was trapped by his magic net. The stabbed Slim also appeared unharmed, just startled. The 2 assassins could only wonder what was going on while surrounded by the Slims they recognized. It turns out that this must have been the beast Tamer who was eliminated from their list because the other assassins did not see the threat from his brother but then still followed the same old lesson and after saying their slogan, the 2 immediately bit the bottle. The poison was hidden in his mouth and he died. Yuji ordered his Slims to look inside the barrel and they discovered that there was something like a cursed magic stone inside. He decided to call an expert and plant a tree. Small mountain near the volcano and summoned the spirit Dres. She said that inside the barrel there was cursed water. Although not as strong as the magic stone and could not defeat the dragon, it could certainly anger it enough to destroy everything above its path. Yuji thought so too and he immediately purified the water and removed a danger. Dres saw that she had finished her work and returned to her forest through the tree and Iui ordered his Slim group to continue monitoring the situation. They found a group of agitated intermediate dragons, and then suddenly the manager knocked on Ji's door and asked him to evacuate because it might rain suddenly. Every time everyone is running away from the city when it starts to rain, this makes the fire dragon even more upset. Yuji is watching it from afar and thinking about what the manager told him. The dragon fire only woke up in the rain once, and during that time the dragon burned down their town due to the rain making it boil. It seemed like the same old scenario would play out a second time when the dragon started to come out of the volcano, and immediately the wolf cried out with pride and the Slims ran for their lives. The dragon had come to the city and was staring at Juja, and he was seeing the townspeople panic as they forced to let their houses be destroyed. Destruction, and he thought that he must stop that fire dragon at all costs. There were 2 rivers separating the dragon and the town, and Yuji asked the pride wolf to check if it stopped at the first river. Each step of the dragon turned the ground into lava. Because of its terrible heat, the river water also began to evaporate when the dragon reached the river. But instead the dragon walked into the river and screamed in pain. The river dried up and all the fish were boiled because of that, and my Slims got a free sauna. That just 10 liters of water is enough to defeat a small fire dragon, but a dragon of this size is not even bad after being evaporated. The entire river, as it approached the second river, Yuji gave up, wait for it to stop, and order his pet to get ready for a big battle. Slim and the wolf are also waiting for his command, and the wolf carrying Slim passes by at lightning speed and stands right in front of the ghost using Dragon Yuji. The mid-range freezing jutsu is average on the dragon, but it only freezes one of its legs, while freezing the entire ground below. The dragon escapes easily, and Yuji orders Slim to jump up and use the spell. Freezes the dragon's face but infuriates the dragon even more as it doesn't cause any significant damage, and now the dragon is boiling and using fire breath. Yuji counterattacks by using long-range freezing magic with Ha. Slim, while thinking of a way to create a stronger attack to defeat him. The dragon saw no point in prolonging the battle and ordered the wolf to cry for Han to return, while the dragon had already gone to the river. Monday cried out as it crossed and went to the other side. Slim thought that if the dragon doesn't stop then the town will be destroyed, but he says they've bought enough time. This is the moment he's been waiting for, and he tells one of his Slims to release the only shield. The barricade acted as a dam to stop the flow of the river, and now it was released with enough force to sweep over. The dragon Yuji had erected the barricade in case the dragon crossed the river first, and thanks to Slim having bought enough time, he was able to collect enough water for this attack. The wolf called out proudly, "Go check to see if the dragon had been defeated," and because it didn't move, it thought it had won. But then the dragon stood up suddenly and almost burned them with his fire breath, and Yuji protected them with a barrier. At the last moment he ordered the wolf and the Slims to run out, and the dragon was enraged. Preparing its strongest attack, Yuji thought attack this can destroy an entire town in one hit, so he decided to use the strongest ice-type magic in his kit by using Slim with powerful equipment to cast the Curse of Eternal Frost. And it collided with the dragon's fire breath with seemingly equal strength, but then Yu's magic overwhelmed the dragon and froze it along with the surrounding land, and when the ice cracked it crumbled down. There was no trace of the fire dragon left, and only its precious jewel was left behind in the pile of snow. Yuji felt exhausted after using such a powerful spell, and in addition to the jewel, Slim also found another strange thing. Later my brother came to him and said that he had a rare gem and showed him the fire dragon pearl to the master armorer and his student. They were stunned, and he told them to keep it safe, causing them to agree to keep it a secret, and promised to make the most amazing item Yuji had ever seen with this gem. Yuji then went to the guild and asked the receptionist about Od Darren, and found out that it was a town but gets a bad rap for needing privacy above all else, and showing off appears hostile to other areas as well as to visitors. Yuji then takes out another object he found from the pile of rubble and asks the receptionist about it. She says it's one of those artificial sewing machines. Each association has one, but the city name of this device has been erased. And I think it must have something to do with the city named Ovarian. A few days later, Gio finished equipping your and your Slim's equipment, saying that this is at least legendary level. After saying goodbye, the Tamer left town without revealing his name, and the master blacksmith returned to his work, and like the receptionist in the previous town said, everyone was quite hostile and were all staring at him. He pretended to look at the quests posted in the Adventurers Guild but didn't choose anything, and the two of them, the men, entered the building to discuss more about him. Yuji let his Slim follow them, and he learned that they were from the Kang Wei sect, and they were talking about him being on the assassination list but was Assassin's Guild. Crossed out his beard and said that he did not believe in the words of the assassins and wanted to finish him off as soon as possible, but his partner, Dima, said that there would be no benefit in doing so and that he could blowing their cover. They talk about their recent failure when someone took down the fire dragon despite everything they could do to provoke it, and want to inform their wanted or master about this. While he was wondering about all this, Steer and his young disciple approached him and took him to the church where they wanted to tell him something important. his way here waiting for Yuji, and even though the guild here is below Kang Wei's control, they are safe inside the church. Yuji says he is on their wanted list, but he knows everything and decides to tell him about his past with a man named Wanter. Sia used to be part of a notorious religious organization called the Kang Wei Church with an unmatched youthfulness. At that time the gang was made up of people who were used by society, and that was how Wanter joined them and quickly became his right-hand man. He acted like he was a pious man, but he had bigger ambitions and needed to eliminate the stay to achieve that. One day the priest was revealed to be in love by Kai and revealed to him by God asked him to destroy the church of Thuong Wei, but he could not abandon his comrades and disobey the revelation. A few days later the church was attacked by a violent attack led by Wanter, and everyone in power except Steer is dead. Wanter took over the church and turned it into a terrorist cult with propaganda and made his followers believe in his principles to the extreme and declared that he would cleanse the whole world. This is the world. This the reason Stay came here to tell Yuji, as he feels responsible for this mess, and on top of that he was also revealed by Kai, who recently told him about a poisoned bright light that created chaos and instructed him to guide the divine messenger to regain his grace. Since he could use the Gam-K fish knife, he was qualified to become the representative of God and the hero of the world. In the end, he would have to face Wanter, but Steer hid an important part when he was told by Kai that the instructor's death would create the main stage, and he knew Yuji would hesitate if he knew this. Yuji thought about the story while lying in bed, then he just thought that Steer was just pushing him into the role of a mythical warrior and talking about legends. But talking about legends, he remembered what the receptionist P said, tell me about the legendary Tamer, and I want to ask that to the priest tomorrow. Sia isn't at church and Yuji decides to ask his Slims if they saw him leave town. One of the couple's Slims saw two priests enter the forest deep into the early morning, and Yuji told them to follow the priests there. Sia and his assistant found a barrier of darkness in front of them, and he purified it with divine magic to penetrate there and reach the headquarters of the church. The lair of Thuong Wei seemed like the final level in the game. Yuji followed their trail and came to the cave with the dark barrier. Slim was scared, but he was able to lift the barrier's curse in one fell swoop and entered the cave and saw the terrorist group defeated. A few minutes before YJ arrived at the scene, Stay and his disciples entered the cave, and they were surrounded by armed guards and fortified his body with magic before defeating the guards with his martial arts skills. Then went to the final boss room where the Wanter and his men were waiting for him, showing off how great his fighting skills are and defeating all the henchmen. But when he was about to make peace with Wanter about completing his mission here, his assistant betrayed him by blindingly and knocked him unconscious. The young man was a part of the Kang Wei Church and lured Stay here in hopes of luring the hero to follow him. The priest only gave Yui the dagger to fight the dragon Green, but his brother took it upon himself to cover up everything else and attack a lot of the cult's henchmen, as causing resentment. Wanter says that now it's all meaningless and his plan has moved to the final stage, and with help from their lord and new way to access his power they will change the world the way they want. While Wanter is busy crowing, then Steer says that Yu will definitely come, and if his death is the motive, the power for him to save the world is Mr. ready to sacrifice. Wanter immediately granted that wish and used ancient magic to unleash the curse on the minions, turning his minions into ghost monsters that terrified Stay at the level of his cruelty. But the villain just laughed cheerfully, and when the priest was about to die at the hands of his former assistant, Yuji burst into the room with a loud bang. He defeated all the monsters on the way, and Yuji wanted to ask something from the priest, but he saw that this was not the right time. Johan immediately turned his attention to the bigger threat and shot a fireball at the Yug, which he blocked with just one move. Simple action and dispel the magical rope around the priest. The two have a talk about the current situation before Steer introduces Wanter to him, who is eager to meet the hero. When the villain entices him, they entered into a conversation where the magical technological device was completed, and as the energy flowing through the circuits in the room gradually stabilized, he ordered his subordinates, who had turned into ghosts, to attack him. They rushed at him, but he used Use Your Slim to destroy both of them using the fireball, took advantage of that opportunity. Wanter went deeper into his castle and closed the door behind him, going to his throne room and sat on the special magic chair that would made him use all the magic he had stored and enlarged his muscles and tattoos. Just as Wanter was about to finish upgrading his power when Yuji and the priest entered the room and he told them to watch his transformation, he turned into a gun monster and the castle started to melt. Yuji wanted to end it early by shooting a fireball at him, but now Wanter has become the gunlord and that attack is not what affected it on him. He attacked Yui and created a large concussion with just one punch, but the wolf pride saved his brother. Yuji noticed that the villain had infused him with the dragon's grace and passed away. His transformation is not complete yet. He grows wings and a third eye, and his horns and claws become larger, and a human tail grows from his back as he transforms from Lord Gun into the demon dragon god. He launched a laser beam to shoot at his old friend but Yuji blocked it using a shield, and since the attack had no effect, Wanter then used a physical attack, but Yuji placed a slim to launch fireballs at him from below. Now he was fast, much better, and dodged the attack and started flying above them and said to see for yourself the power of the greatest dragon. Yuji thought that his enemy would always dodge individual attacks, so he ordered the wolf pride to step forward and throw the slims into the air and then launch a series of fireballs at Wanter, but now he was fast enough to dodge the fireballs that were shooting above him. Yuji added one more. Another slim to shoot him in front and also get a few hits. Okay, but Wanter is too strong to be defeated by such small magic, so Yui decides to unleash her secret weapon and protected it from the energy blast so that it could take out its special armor, so that the wolf and it together, both monsters, were armed to the teeth, ready to fight the last insect. And IUI enhances our physical and magical abilities. The wolf cries proudly, speeds through the cave, then jumps and attacks Lean Hoi and Wanter fast enough to put him at a disadvantage. The wolf lures him into position and Slim puts on his armor, jumped up, and Yuji launched a fireball that passed through him. The ball was too big for Wanter to resist and blew it to the ground. He stood up again. Even though his whole body was like a piece of beef jerky that had just been bitten off in half, he saw his subordinates and absorbed their energy to heal himself. He flew towards Yuji again. And he launched another fireball, taking away Wanter's arm, but he not only healed it immediately but also conveniently creates another pair of arms by absorbing the energy of his fallen comrades. He has become stronger and faster. Yuji rushes in with fireballs shot from every angle, but that has no effect because he recovered so fast. Yuji thought that this was because the dragon's grace was too strong, but then he came up with an idea and escaped on the back of Pride Wolf. While Wanter attacked him, Yuji rode ahead and wanted her flying after him. He continued to distract him with fireballs and made him use his teammates' energy to heal himself like Wanter intended to do. Yuji used the curse and turned his healing legs into stone. The villain was shocked, but he continued to attack and launched a series of punches at Yug, but he was protected by the shield that was put up, but the punches proved to be too strong and started crushing the ground and cracked the shield, and before the shield broke, the Slims informed Yu that they were ready for their next plan. While Wanter was busy working with the barrier, the Slims launched a magic net at him. The net first immobilizes him and then Yuji envelops him with a magic net from all sides and turns the Wanter into a wish. Then he uses hellfire to burn and defeats the villain by burning him. Rubbed him and was barely full half of his body. After the last attack he laughed and said it didn't matter who won and prayed to his god to make the real revelation. Now Wanter then also died, and while Slim and the others celebrated, Yuji thought this was too easy and Stay agreed with him. He said something was very fishy and then suddenly he was right. The magic circuit dispersal machine that had spread throughout the castle before activated and begins to absorb all the dragon's grace from Wanter and his dead minions. The energy gathers at the top of the cave system and the bright light transforms into a shooting star and transforms into a humanoid form. This is the combination of dragon and human, and he called himself the sage. Yuji asked Stay if it was Wanter, and the priest told him that there was the last part of the revelation that he did not tell him, mentioned the death of the person who guided to give birth to the sage family, and he was willing to die to make Yuji become the sage family that would save the world, but it seems he was wrong and it was Wanter who would die to bring about disaster. Yuji asked Steer who is the sage, and he replied that when the divine messenger fought with the blue dragon in ancient times he lost his life along with a dragon, and the Wanter sacrificed his life and that of his minions to reincarnate him with how to use something like a soul summoning ritual, but Steer says that there is currently nothing divine in the house's body. The house sage, the corrupted sage, uses hellfire and destroys the entire area, but with somehow Yuji was able to defend himself despite being shocked that his favorite attack was used against him. The entire forest above the castle was turned into plains, and when the sage, the metamorphosis, flew up into the sky and Yuji decided power-ups for his pet and then had the wolf pride bring Slim up to attack the sage's house, but he easily blocked the fireball and counterattacked with hellfire from the wolf Kyu. How narrowly dodged an attack that could have killed it hundreds of times, and Yuji ordered his Slims to separate and jump around using physical shields and using a series of fireballs to attack the sage, but he simply blocked all the lightning attacks. He was about to attack a nasty Slim with hellfire, but Yuji saved it using the monster's stealth skill, and then he attacks the sage with a fireball shot from his equipment, but he still stops our hero, thinking that at this rate he will run out of MP and enemies seem to have infinite number of times spamming hellfire, so he ordered the Slims to unite and use the full power of the fair magic, but the corrupted sage protected himself by using a barrier and then broke the ice around him. Yuji immediately attacked him again with several fireballs that merged into one giant attack and managed to throw him to the ground, but even that attack did not harm the sage. Used the hellfire spell by amplifying it 10 times, and Yuji did the same thing. The two people's attacks of equal strength collided and Yuji finally won and hit them. The sage, but he had lost too much energy and knew he couldn't fight much longer. However, the villain wasn't even scratched by the previous attack and he said it was time to bring such salvation. world, and he decided to use his greatest move. He gathered the remaining dragon's grace in the area and concentrated it into a sphere before dispersing it across the continent and charging it to artificial rainmakers. Soon dark purple clouds will cover the entire area, and the rain falling from them will cause monsters everywhere to go berserk, and people in the towns will have difficulty facing them. The monsters were agitated, and Yuji helped them with the slim he had left in front of the sage's house. The sage called Yu the young sage's house and predicted how he would lose his life trying to stop the dragon and make his soul was full of pain and regret. He said that no matter how many sages were born, stronger dragons would come and engulf this world and create chaos, so he wanted to save the world from that by destroy himself. And Yuji heard that this guy had lost the wrinkles on his brain. The corrupted sage attacked him with hellfire, and since Yuji's shield couldn't protect him for long, he fought it off with their own hellfire. Their fight created nuclear fireworks exploding in the sky, and Stay was surprised to see them fighting so explosively. He was revealed by Kai while Yu was struggling with his own battle. Then his slim says that monsters are attacking every town he has ever visited, and he feels obliged to help all the clowns who mockingly say that his powers won't be enough to save the world. And when Yuji resisted him, he thought only to conclude that he couldn't save everyone, but it turned out that his heroic actions in the past had encouraged everyone he met, and they were determined. Yuji felt relieved. Defend your home. Realized that in his previous life he always shouldered all the burdens alone and didn't bother asking for help. It had become his habit and had acted on his own even in this world, but now that he knew that having someone else to share his burden wasn't bad at all, he decided to support his allies and use all kinds of physical and magical enhancements to strengthen them, and them has become strong enough to defend his town. When it's over, Yuji wants to focus on his battle with the final insect, but before that he receives a message from Steer saying that God has become angry, and when the sun and the moon meet, the person will give his judgment. Yuji knew he could not wait for God's judgment to help him, so he immediately drank the mana restoring potion given by the god Drez to return to his most prosperous state. He said. The wolf cried proudly, "Protect Stay," while he jumped up using the shield to face the sage, who asked him why he was blocking the way to save him. He asked him why he intending to save this world, and he thought about these friend he met, and this world doesn't need a new path. The sage liked his answer and said that as sages they should duel until only one is left, but he was confident that he would win both of them using hell repeatedly back and forth. And the sage said that there is a limit to how much the human body can endure when it comes to spamming magic. On the other hand, his body has no limit. Such term Yuji knew that this was true, but then he received a message that the divine attack spell could be used, and he wondered if this was the judgment that Stay had discovered when Kai revealed no, because he used this skill once against the green dragon, and now he used it again with no hesitation and attacked the sage with divine lightning and hit him. When I got down to the ground, his screen was still showing blue, showing that he was still able to use the divine attack, so Yuji decided to spam it as much as possible, and the sage was still standing even though he was stunned. Dizzy from suffering a divine attack, Yuji decided to use stronger magic to kill him and ordered his slim and the formation, while the corrupted sage also prepared his strongest attack. Yuji threw the Gam Caddis knife into the sky and used the divine attack on it, causes the dark clouds to disperse while the knife shines brightly, and at the same time the moon completely covers the sun, completing the first part of the revelation. Mia said, holding the knife stuck, and jumped down towards the sage, who was about to unleash his ultimate attack as he was covered in 6 layers of barrier, but those layers were easily broken, and Yu used the power of the created equipment. I used the fire dragon ball to create a transcendent isolation block to trap himself and the sage's family inside. He then stabbed the corrupted sage's house with a charged dagger and released the energy of the attack. The divine energy inside his body, because he could not withstand all that force, his body began to crack, and finally he exploded, destroying the isolation block along with him, and the polar explosion drove it away. The clouds cleared over the entire continent, and Yuji was unharmed even after receiving that powerful explosion and glowing in golden light as he descended to earth as a true messenger of the gods. Stay only had eyes and mouth, but he fell down immediately. When he hit the ground but was still awake, he smiled, thinking that the world was finally saved. He didn't stay long to celebrate because Odeon was the stronghold of the Kang Wei Church and they wouldn't be in the mood to party after taking over this defeat. He confirmed the status of the other towns from B Slim, and everyone was celebrating their victory. Lu Slim and Yu were also dancing in joy, and he thought it was good that everyone was happy. Several days have passed since the battle. But despite defeating the reincarnated sage, our hero hasn't even reached the underbelly of the Shang Moon Church. The people of Aaron are organizing a meeting on behalf of their superiors and thought that Wander's death wasn't a big deal because their ultimate weapon, codenamed Purifier, had completed it. It couldn't even be compared to a nuclear reactor anymore and had become into something like a science film fantasy, because once it explodes it will take the entire continent with it. The person in charge of this continent said that their lives will end when they blow up the Purifier, but that is a necessary sacrifice that they have to make. do so that they can achieve their ultimate goal and defeat the Black Dragon of sect, and they won't hesitate to do anything thanks to Slim there. So Yuji heard it all, and this news spoiled his taste with more bombs, more to deal with, and another dragon that he will have to defeat. And his Slim tells him that they have a guest, and then a giant tiger appears while many others surround their hero. Yuji destroyed them all, and the next day went to the nearest town and said that he wanted to accept the tiger hunting quest because he had completed it. So the receptionist said that it was a great achievement and she wanted to recruit more people to complete this, but Yui tells her that he only works alone. The girl thinks that this is his trauma when he lost his team members, and he thinks that they never existed. She started crying and comforting, but then the guild boss came out and she could tell that the tigers had been hunted only by a fire magic user. She asked him if he was as a magician, and he replied that he is just a true tamer. Unfortunately for his privacy, the guild boss has heard about a special tamer who is very good at using magic, and right away as she said this, the entire guild realized Yuji was the legendary hero who fought countless monsters and saved many cities and even defeated legendary dragons himself with his inability to. If we can hide our profession anymore, what will our hero do next?